I never thought buying a house would lead to a courtroom showdown with my own parents. But here we are. My name's Jason Tran. I'm 29. And last month I bought my first home after nearly a decade of saving. It was supposed to be a dream come true. Instead, it kicked off the ugliest chapter of my life. Let me back up. I'm the oldest of two. My sister Sierra is 26. Growing up, I always knew there was a hierarchy. Sierra was the golden child. My parents adored her, showered her with praise gifts and attention. I got chores and lectures. Still, I didn't complain. I just kept my head down and worked. I started at 15 doing anything that paid janitorial gigs, tutoring, washing dishes. By 18, I'd saved enough to buy a beat-up Toyota Corolla and enrolled in community college while working full-time nights in IT support. Eventually, I completed online certifications and landed a job in cybersecurity. Meanwhile, Sierra breezed through a private art school in New York, fully paid by mom and dad. Study abroad covered. Her first car, a red Audi gifted at 16 with a bow. They even paid her rent after graduation so she could focus on her creative spirit. I didn't resent her. Not really. I just figured we had different paths. Until my path led me to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch home on the outskirts of Portland, modest, but mine. I closed at $405,000, putting down $81,000 from my savings. 2 days later, I got a message from Dad. "We need to talk about the house. Call us tonight. It's urgent." I figured they wanted to see the place. Maybe bring a plant or something. What I got was a conference call ambush. "Jason." Dad began, voice calm but heavy. "We've been thinking a lot about fairness. Your mom and I believe it's only right that Sierra gets the house." I froze. "What are you talking about?" "She's struggling," Mom chimed in. "Art doesn't pay. Her loans are drowning her. She can't afford her rent anymore." "Yeah, and I saved for 9 years to get this house." "You're doing well, honey," she said gently. "You can always get another house." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was surreal. "She needs stability," Dad added. "We helped you your whole life. Now it's time to support the family." "You paid for her entire education," I snapped. "You never gave me a dime. And now you want to take my house." Sierra wasn't even on the call. The argument spiraled. My dad shouted something about loyalty and sacrifice. My mom said I was being selfish. I hung up when my dad accused me of abandoning my sister in her hour of need. A week later, I was served papers. My own parents were suing me for the house. They claimed they had a right to it, based on parental equity. That they had invested in me and were now entitled to redistribute assets for the family good. They wanted the house transferred to Sierra, with me still paying the mortgage for the next 2 years while she stabilizes. I read the documents 3 times. It felt like satire, but it wasn't. They actually listed the cost of raising me $3,000 according to their own spreadsheet. Food, shelter, school supplies, even birthday cakes. I had 2 options: hire a lawyer and spend thousands or represent myself. I chose the latter. The next few weeks were a blur of research, photocopies, and caffeine. I gathered every receipt, every pay stub, every document that proved the house was mine. Mortgage papers, bank transfers, emails from when I asked for textbook help in college and was told we're focusing on Sierra right now. Meanwhile, Sierra started acting like she'd already won. She posted on Instagram, "New beginnings. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for believing in justice. Home is where the art is." The photo wasn't even my house. It was a Pinterest image of some loft with hanging plants and exposed brick. I didn't respond, but something in me hardened. Mom posted on Facebook, "We raised our son with love, but when his sister needed him most, he turned his back. Where did we go wrong? Family first, brokenhearted." My name wasn't in the post, but everyone knew who it was about. Then came the kicker, a group message. "Due to Jason's decision to prioritize money over family, he will not be welcome at Thanksgiving or future family gatherings until this matter is resolved appropriately. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I ordered Chinese food and streamed football in my empty new house, alone. But not broken. The first court hearing was 2 months away. I had time, and I wasn't going down without a fight. The weeks before the court date were the loneliest of my life. I still went to work, still ran my daily routines, but every day felt heavier. My inbox filled with distant relatives giving neutral advice, which was never neutral. They used phrases like, "Maybe she needs it more," and "Think about what your parents sacrificed." Nobody asked how I was doing. Nobody asked why I had to sacrifice everything first. My cousin Emma, one of the few sane ones, called me after seeing Sierra's latest TikTok. She'd posted a video walking around some model home, narrating like she was hosting HGTV. "I just want a space where I can create." "You know," she said, spinning in a fake living room. The caption read, "Manifesting my future home." Thanks to everyone supporting this journey, especially my family. That word family had become a weapon. A word they threw around when they wanted something, then dropped the second you set a boundary. Emma asked if I was okay. I told her the truth, I wasn't, but I was preparing. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to tell the whole damn story. I printed every message, every transaction, every bank statement from the last decade. I organized them into folders, like chapters of a book: hard work, independence, neglect, and entitlement. My proof wasn't dramatic, but it was thorough. I didn't have a lawyer. I had the truth. 3 days before the hearing, I got a call from their lawyer, some discount firm from out of state. He sounded tired already. "My clients are open to a settlement," he said. "They're proposing that you transfer the deed to Sierra within 30 days and continue paying the mortgage for 24 months. In exchange, they'll drop all additional emotional damage claims." I let him finish. Then I laughed. Not politely. I laughed like someone who just heard the plot of a bad soap opera. "Tell them I'll see them in court." Court day arrived with the kind of tension that sits in your chest. I wore a simple suit. No one came with me. As I walked into the courthouse, I saw them, my parents, Sierra, and my Aunt Yvonne. They were all wearing matching navy shirts that said "Blood First." Always. I didn't say a word, just nodded at the clerk and took my seat. The judge was a woman in her 50s. Calm eyes. No nonsense. As soon as the case was called, their lawyer launched into a speech like he was reading a bedtime story about sacrifice and fairness. My clients, he said, nurtured the defendant with love, discipline, and substantial financial investment. It is reasonable to expect reciprocal support, especially when another family member is at risk of financial ruin. He handed the judge a printed list. Expenses going back to 1996. Diapers formula. Happy Meals school trips. They even listed a $20 birthday cake from 2004. Then came Sierra's financial breakdown: 6-figure student loans, no income, living with friends. The lawyer added that she was working on launching a digital arts brand and that stability was crucial for her mental well-being. When it was my turn, I stood up. "Your Honor, I said I bought a house with money I saved over nearly a decade. I lived with roommates until I was 28. I skipped vacations. I worked 2 jobs. This house isn't just a structure. It's my entire adult life in bricks and beams, and I'm the only name on the mortgage." I passed up my folders. Bank records, signed checks, tax returns. Emails from college asking for textbook help declined, with the excuse Sierra's abroad program is costing more than we expected. Even screenshots of Sierra bragging on social media about her upcoming home reveal. Then came the questions. "Mr. Tran," the judge asked, "have your parents ever financially contributed to your adult life?" "No, ma'am. They supported me until I was 18. That's all." "Did they assist in the down payment?" "No. Every cent came from my account. She turned to Sierra. "What is your current employment status?" "I'm transitioning," Sierra said confidently. "I'm an artist and influencer." "Do you have income?" "I'm building a following." "Growth takes time," the judge nodded slowly. "And what do you plan to do if you receive this house?" "I'll make it into a creative sanctuary. Maybe host workshops. It'll be a space for healing and expression." Mom interrupted. "Your Honor, she needs this. Jason can always start over. He's got a good job." That was it. The mask slipped. The judge held up a hand. "Mrs. Tran, please." She looked at me again. "Mr. Tran, are you currently supporting anyone else financially?" "No. I've been independent since I was 18. She leaned back, looked at their lawyer. "Do you have any legal documentation proving entitlement to this property?" He has shuffled papers. "No, but based on moral." "That will be all," she said. "Ruling will be issued within 7 days." As I walked past them to leave, Sierra tried to hug me. "I forgive you," she said loudly. Like we were on stage. I stepped back. "You don't get to forgive me for not giving you what's mine." Outside, Aunt Yvonne hissed, "Ungrateful brat." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The next 5 days were quiet, like the pause between thunder and lightning. Then the letter came. Case dismissed. Judge's words. No legal precedent, no contractual claim, and no jurisdiction for emotional redistribution of property. I sat on the porch that night and just breathed. It wasn't relief exactly, more like release. Like I'd been holding something in for years and finally let go. But I knew this wasn't the end. You don't take someone's dream and walk away clean. You leave a mess. And now I had to figure out how to clean it up alone. Winning felt strange, not triumphant, not loud. Just quiet, like exhaling after holding your breath too long. The kind of silence that wraps around your ribs and lets you feel how tense you've been. But I should have known better than to think it was over. The court ruled in my favor. Legally, I was untouchable. Emotionally, that's where the real war started. The morning after the ruling, I found my mom's latest Facebook post already making rounds. When your own child becomes a stranger, you ask where you went wrong. We raised him with love, and now he's raised walls instead. Our daughter just wanted a chance. That's all. Family is supposed to mean something, G. I didn't respond. Not publicly, not privately. But the comments under it lit up like wildfire. People I hadn't spoken to in years chimed in with thinly veiled jabs. Maybe some people forget who fed them. This generation only thinks about money. That poor girl. Artists always get pushed aside. That poor girl had just tried to take my house through legal manipulation. And now, she was the martyr. I started getting weird vibes in town. Cashiers who used to smile now stared a little longer. One neighbor hesitated before waving back. I wasn't sure if it was real or paranoia. But the seed was planted, and it kept growing. A few nights later, I reviewed my home security footage, just to be safe. The camera by the driveway had caught something. First, Sierra hovering near my car, hands stuffed in her hoodie. She walked around it twice, looked up at the camera, then left. A few hours later, Aunt Yvonne showed up with what looked like a spray paint can. She raised her arm, paused. Then the motion light kicked on. She froze, turned around, and walked off. I watched the footage 3 times. They didn't do anything, but they wanted to. I filed a police report. Quietly. I wasn't playing vigilante, but I also wasn't going to let them think they could scare me into submission. I kept everything documented. Dates, times, screenshots, footage. If they came for round 2, I'd be ready. Meanwhile, Sierra launched a GoFundMe. The title, "Help Me Start Over After Legal Injustice." The description read like a soap opera script. My brother used loopholes to keep a house he doesn't even need, while I, an artist trying to heal the world through creativity, was left homeless. Family should support each other. I'm not giving up. Please help me rebuild. She even used a picture of herself crying captioned Day 1 of moving forward. I flagged the fundraiser for misrepresentation. So did Emma. Within a week, it was under review. But the fallout didn't stop there. My dad emailed me. Subject line: "When will you come home?" The body of the email was one sentence. "We are still your family. Families forgive. When will you?" I stared at the screen for a long time before closing the tab. Fortiwat what the lawsuit, the gaslighting, the public smear campaign. My mom texted the next day, asking for help with utilities. "Things are tight this month. Your dad had to retire early, you know that. Just $500 would mean a lot. No apology. No accountability. Just a quiet expectation that I'd keep giving, even after they tried to take." I didn't reply. That weekend, I went to the hardware store and bought a new set of locks, just in case. I also installed more cameras front-back, even one angled at the mailbox. Paranoid, maybe. But paranoia was safer than regret. Then came the family group chat explosion. Someone, I'm guessing Emma, had been quietly feeding screenshots from the court case and GoFundMe into the group chat. Suddenly, relatives who'd stayed silent for months were speaking up. My uncle, who hadn't said a word since the lawsuit, wrote, "Wait. They actually tried to sue him for his house. That's insane." Another cousin chimed in. "And they want him to pay for Sierra's life. Didn't they already pay for her degree?" Then my Aunt Yvonne's sister dropped the hammer. "Remember when Jason asked for help with rent during college and was told to figure it out? But they flew Sierra to Italy for that art program. It snowballed from there. Every relative who'd quietly tolerated the favoritism now had receipts." The silence broke. My grandfather, 82 and barely able to text, sent a message that stopped everyone. "Jason, I'm proud of you. You worked hard. They should have supported you the same." I read that one over and over. He'd always been quiet at family dinners. Let my parents dominate the room. But now, when it mattered, he spoke up. That Sunday, he showed up at my place, no warning. Just knocked on the door and said, "Got room for an old man to teach you some carpentry." We spent the day in my garage. He taught me how to measure angles with nothing but string and instinct. Said his dad had built his own house that way during the war. It wasn't about the wood. It was about showing up. Choosing who your family really is. And it wasn't the people who tried to steal my home with matching t-shirts and sob stories. It was the ones who said, "I believe you," when the rest of the world was screaming, "Give it up." By the end of that week, Sierra's GoFundMe was officially shut down. The platform cited multiple violations. Her TikTok following took a hit. Comments turned. "Didn't you try to steal your brother's house?" one user wrote. "You should be grateful he even talks to you." She posted a crying video again this time, blaming internet trolls and family jealousy. I didn't say anything. Just watched. Because here's the truth, I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear, and that was far more dangerous than rage. Some people think when the storm passes, it's over. But in real life, the damage sticks around. It settles in the walls, hides under floorboards. You don't always hear the wind die down. Sometimes it just shifts direction. 3 weeks after Sierra's GoFundMe collapsed, she tried a new angle. She went quiet online and started messaging people privately. Friends, old family friends, even former teachers, painting herself as the misunderstood artist, the tragic little sister crushed by her brother's ambition. "He used the legal system to push me out," she wrote. In one message Emma forwarded me, "He's always been jealous that people love me more. He just hides it better." At that point, it didn't sting. It felt tired, desperate, like someone trying to rewrite a story after everyone already saw the ending. Still, I kept screenshots. Not out of paranoia anymore, but principle. The same way you save receipts when someone keeps returning broken gifts and blaming you for the cracks. Meanwhile, the police finally called back about the security footage I submitted. They said the activity was suspicious, but didn't qualify as criminal trespass. Just make sure your perimeter is locked up, the officer told me. And keep your cameras rolling. That same week, I got a letter from my job's HR department. My Aunt Yvonne had emailed them, claimed I'd used company time and resources to slander her family online. She attached screenshots of completely unrelated Reddit posts and suggested they investigate my social media activity. Fortunately, my boss had a sense of humor. He walked into my office holding the printout like it smelled bad. Tell your aunt if she wants to cancel you, she should at least spell defamation correctly. We laughed. But afterward, I filed a formal complaint and got a digital restraining order underway. That laugh didn't mean I felt safe. It meant I was still watching my back in my own life. By the end of that month, my mom tried again. This time, she showed up in person. I was pulling weeds in the backyard when I heard her car door slam. No call, no heads up. Just the crunch of gravel, and then her voice soft like we hadn't been to court over property. "Jason," she said, stepping through the gate like she still had a key. "We need to talk." I stood up, wiping dirt on my jeans. "You're trespassing." Her eyes welled up. "I'm still your mother." I didn't flinch. "And this is still my house." She tried to guilt me again. Said they were in debt now that Dad's early retirement didn't come with the benefits they expected. That Sierra was struggling to keep her dignity after all the online hate. "This family is unraveling," she whispered. "And you're standing there, acting like you didn't start pulling threads." I didn't argue. I just looked at her, calm, detached, and I said what I should have said months ago. I didn't tear this family apart. I just stopped pretending everything was fine. She left without another word. That night, I drafted formal cease and desist letters and sent them to everyone involved in the lawsuit. Mom, Dad, Sierra, Aunt Yvonne. Each letter detailed the harassment, the false claims, the attempted smear campaigns. Each one closed with the same line. Any future attempt to contact me directly or indirectly will be considered harassment and pursued legally. It felt cold to send them. But peace isn't always warm. Sometimes it's just silent. A week later, Sierra posted one final message before locking all her profiles. "I've decided to step away from social media. Healing offline. Real life is more than likes or lawsuits." She didn't mention me by name, didn't apologize, but that was her version of surrender, and I took it. Meanwhile, karma showed up where I wasn't even looking. Aunt Yvonne's workplace launched a review of her conduct. Apparently, she'd sent similar harassment emails to other relatives in the past. This time, someone reported her. She wasn't fired, just warned. But in a small town like ours, that's loud enough. My parents started getting side-eyed at church. Emma told me people were whispering during Sunday potlucks. "Did you really try to sue your son?" a woman asked my dad. In front of the casserole table. He muttered something about miscommunication and walked out. I didn't take joy in any of that. But I won't lie, it felt like balance. It wasn't revenge. It was just the world adjusting itself back to neutral. That winter, I installed a new doorbell camera and a reinforced mailbox. Bought blackout curtains. Set up a security system that synced with my phone. I wasn't scared anymore. I was just done being caught off guard. Then, right before Christmas, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in shaky pen, inside one sheet of paper. No greeting, no signature. Just a single sentence. "You've chosen your path. I hope you find peace on it." I sat with that for a long time, read it 3 times, then burned it in the fire pit out back. Watched it curl and vanish like the rest of the guilt I no longer owed. I spent that holiday with friends, people who knew me without the baggage. We played board games, grilled dinner, and swapped ridiculous stories over cider. One of them brought a dog from the shelter she volunteers at. Luna. A German shepherd mix with crooked ears and eyes that looked like she knew secrets. She curled up next to me on the couch like she'd been waiting her whole life to find the right spot. I adopted her the next week. She sleeps at the foot of my bed now, barks at shadows, but doesn't flinch when the wind hits the windows. A guardian, even when I don't need guarding. And maybe that's the point. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's knowing who you are when they show up. It's the ability to say no more explaining, no more defending, no more wondering if love should come with lawsuits. It's strange how silence becomes a kind of soundtrack when the noise finally fades. No more urgent texts, no late-night calls, no surprise visits. Just quiet. Not empty, but spacious. Like my life finally had room to breathe. In that space, I started to live again. Luna and I developed a rhythm. Morning walks, evening patrols. She'd bark at squirrels like they owed her money, then sit on the porch like a soldier guarding sacred ground. We planted roots together without saying a word. She reminded me that home wasn't a place I bought. It was something I built one boundary at a time. I started inviting friends over. Game nights turned into weekend cookouts. My living room saw more laughter in 2 months than my childhood home did in years. We'd sit around talking about work, awkward dates, politics, everything and nothing. And no one judged me for not talking to my parents. In fact, they never asked. Real friends don't poke your scars just to see how deep they go. Around that time, I got a call from my grandfather. He asked if I'd help him clear out his shed. Said it was time to pass down the good tools, the ones that actually lasted. I drove over on a Saturday with a thermos of coffee and a new pair of gloves. The shed smelled like old oil and wood shavings. Dust danced in the light through the window like it had its own history. We didn't talk much, just worked. But before I left, he handed me a box with a folded note inside. On the outside, it said, "For when the past tries to rewrite itself." Inside were photos. My high school graduation me in a wrinkled gown. No cap because I forgot it in the car. College acceptance letter. I never framed. Even an old drawing Sierra had done of us as kids with me holding her hand. I'd forgotten it existed. "Your story matters," the note read. "Don't let anyone edit it without your permission." That hit me harder than the court hearing. I'd spent years shrinking myself to avoid conflict, swallowing resentment so I wouldn't seem bitter, letting them paint me as cold just because I didn't melt when they wanted warmth on demand. But seeing my past laid out like that, undeniable physical, was a reminder that I wasn't wrong. I was just done pretending. A week later, I ran into Sierra, not on purpose. It was at the grocery store. She was in the frozen food aisle, staring at waffles like they might forgive her. She looked different. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, sweatshirt too big for her frame. She saw me and froze. I nodded. She walked over. "I didn't know you shop here," she said. "I live here," I replied. "Why wouldn't I?" There was a beat of silence. Then she said, "I didn't mean for things to go that far." I didn't answer. "I just wanted help." She continued, "You've always been so together, and I've always felt like I'm drowning." I looked at her not with anger, but with distance. The kind you earn when you've already paid in pain. I worked for everything I have. You tried to take it because it was easier than facing your own reflection. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked tired. "Mom says you've changed," she said softly. I shrugged. "No, I just stopped apologizing for not being what she wanted." Another pause. Then she said the one honest thing I think I've ever heard from her. "I think I believed I deserved more, because they told me I did." I nodded. "You did, until you tried to take it from me." She didn't argue, just nodded back, then walked away. I stood there for a minute next to frozen peas and microwave dinners, thinking about how endings don't always come with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive like receipts. Cold, final, undeniable. That night, I opened the box my grandfather gave me again. Sat at the table, flipping through moments I thought I'd lost. I saw myself again, not the version they painted in court, not the villain in their bedtime stories, but the real me. The one who stayed up coding at 2 a.m., who skipped parties to save money, who took the bus through rain and rejection to get to class on time. He mattered. He still does. So I started writing it all down, not for Reddit, not for validation, just for me. A document titled, "Things They'll Never Say Out Loud." I wrote about being 16 and hearing my mom say Sierra's the one with real potential. I wrote about my dad telling me not to complain because men provide they don't whine. I wrote about every job I took, every birthday I spent alone, every time I watched them pour praise into Sierra like it was a family tradition. And then I wrote about the courtroom, the lies, the twisted logic, the silence that followed. By the time I finished, it was 3 a.m. Luna was asleep by my feet. The house was still, and for once I felt light, not because I'd let go, but because I finally let it exist outside of me. People say forgiveness is freedom, but sometimes clarity is even better, because when you see things clearly, you stop reaching for doors that only lock from the outside. The funny thing about peace is that it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with music swelling in the background or a sudden epiphany that ties everything together. It's quiet. It shows up in how you sleep at night, in the way your breath settles when you're alone and you're okay with it. Life didn't magically transform after everything. Bills still came. Work still needed attention. Luna still barked at every delivery truck like they were bringing threats instead of packages. But under all of that, something had shifted. I no longer flinched at every unknown number or second-guessed the sound of a car door slamming outside. My shoulders sat lower. My chest felt lighter. The people who'd once filled my life with noise had faded into static. My parents hadn't tried to reach out since the cease and desist. Aunt Yvonne kept her distance after the HR debacle. And Sierra, she stayed gone after that aisle encounter. I didn't block anyone. I didn't need to. Boundaries once enforced don't require chains. Just silence. Emma and I kept in touch more. She brought her boyfriend to one of our weekend BBQs and whispered, "This is what family is supposed to feel like." I smiled. Because yeah, it was. It didn't matter that we shared blood with chaos. We built something else out of choice, not obligation. A few months later, my promotion came through at work. Bigger responsibilities, more clients, and a raise that would have blown college-aged me right out of his busted Toyota. I celebrated by upgrading my security system and finally fixing the guest room drywall. Not glamorous, but it felt good, like taking care of a body that had been bruised but still moved forward. One evening, Grandpa and I finished building a garden bench in the backyard. He ran his hand over the smooth pine, satisfied. "You know," he said, sipping iced tea with that slow confidence only the old and unbothered have. "Your dad always thought being a provider made him right. But you figured out how to build peace. That's a lot harder." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. That was enough. That night, I sat on that bench with Luna beside me. Stars overhead, no drama waiting to unfold. I thought about everything that happened. The betrayal, the courtroom, the fallout, the conversations I'd never get back. And I realized I didn't want them back. Because if things had been different, I might have stayed. I might have kept trying to earn love that came with conditions. I didn't regret walking away. I regretted not doing it sooner. They say blood is thicker than water. But I've learned that peace is thicker than both. And peace doesn't demand apologies or sacrifice or submission. It just asks you to stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Sometime in early spring, I got one final message from my dad. A plain email with the subject line, "We still love you." No body text, no attachments. Just that. I read it once, deleted it. Not out of spite, but because some things don't need a response. Not every open door leads to healing. Some are just revolving. Months passed. Seasons shifted. I planted vegetables in the backyard. Started volunteering at a coding program for underserved teens. Taught them how to build websites and protect their data. Showed them how to build more than just careers, how to build dignity, one line of code at a time. One of the students asked me once, "What made you get into tech?" I told him. Because I wanted to control something in my life. And eventually that skill paid off. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. On Luna's adoption anniversary, I took her to the lake. We hiked the trail around the water, stopped at a lookout point, and I sat down on the rock where everything seemed still. The breeze carried the smell of pine. Luna rested her head on my knee, and I whispered not to her, but to myself. This is home, not the walls, not the roof, this. Because home isn't the thing they tried to steal. It's the life I built when I stopped letting them. I wish I could end with a dramatic reveal. Some mic drop moment where they begged me to return, and I stood at the door victorious. But the truth is more ordinary and more honest. They disappeared, faded into the background of my life like a dream I woke up from. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't payback. It's becoming someone they can't reach. I still walk past the photos Grandpa gave me. Still flip through them now and then. Not to dwell, but to remember how far I've come. Every bruise turned lesson. Every silence that taught me how to speak without yelling. Every insult that sharpened my clarity. And if you're wondering whether I ever forgave them, I'll say this. I forgave myself first. For staying quiet. For trying to earn what should have been freely given. For shrinking to fit inside a family that only had space for one child to shine. Now I live full size. No edits, no footnotes. Just me, my dog, my house, and the kind of peace you don't buy, you fight for it. You protect it. You let it grow. And when the past comes knocking again, I won't answer, because I already closed that chapter, and I'm writing better ones now. Story 2. To make room for my cousin. My family forced me to spend Christmas sleeping in the garage. You should be appreciative that we allowed you to stay. My mother scoffed. That night I didn't say anything. I have a ton of panicked messages in my inbox right now. Again, at the age of 20, I am writing this from a surprisingly comfortable motel room, approximately 100 miles from my family's home. My phone has been vibrating continuously for the past 3 hours on this Christmas morning. At last, I switched it to silent. Adrenaline and a feeling of icy clarity propelled the drive here. I've never felt this way before, usually going to see my parents, Jim Mampam, who is 58F, my dad, who is 60F, and my sister Amy, who is 30F during the holidays, is a combination of duty, mild anxiety, and acting. The subtle and not so subtle ways that I'm being treated differently this year go unnoticed. They omit the subtlety, give a brief backstory, and reveal that Amy the younger child is the best and married a good man. Bill lives nearer to home at 32N. I manage construction projects, not ostentatious steady job. Good pay. My home is roughly 6 hours away. Then there is my cousin Leo, who is 26 years old. His mom's sister's child works in finance, wears fancy clothes, and always makes my parents swoon whenever he visits. I'm trustworthy. The one they call when mom needs her car. Towed to the shop, dad needs assistance repairing the deck stairs, or the furnace breaks down in November. Can you guess who covered the cost of the last transmission repair? I'm the one who fixes and helps. The man who arrives. The honored guest is Leo. Yesterday I took a car down there. Around 4 p.m. Christmas Eve arrived. The usual mayhem. Amy and Bill are already there, and their mother is rushing around anxious about supper. Dad parked before the television. I brought presents, assisted with grocery loading, and began doing the things that were expected of me, such as figuring out why the living room's Wi-Fi was inconsistent. An hour or so after my arrival, Mom closed the door halfway and dragged me into the kitchen. "You know what exciting news," she said in a whisper, her eyes shining. At the last minute, Leo and Tiffany, his new girlfriend, made the decision to drive down. They just gave me a call. Isn't that fantastic? "Oh," I said. "All right, where are they lodging?" It's not a big house. Parents' room. The main guest room belonged to Amy and Bill, my former sleeping quarters. Also, I typically stayed in the second guest room, which is smaller. Amy's former room, not much larger than a closet. Mom waved her hand dismissively. "The other guest room isn't really large enough for 2 people, and Amy obviously has your old room. Tiffany also wants her own space. We decided that you could have the garage. We placed a cot outside." I gazed at her. "The garage, Mom, December is here. Outside it's freezing." "Oh," she said, her voice already beginning to take on that familiar edge. "Don't be so dramatic, Michael." The space heater with the slightly frayed cord that belonged to Dad was located. "Everything will be all right. As well as adventure. As well as adventure." Flatly, I repeated. The smell of Dad's lawn fertilizer and gasoline fills the garage. Leo gets the room I usually stay in, and there is no insulation. "Yes," she said, as if it were clear. "Leo is a visitor. He brought Tiffany. We must leave a positive impression. You know your family. I spent 6 hours behind the wheel," I said, maintaining a level voice. "During the rainy weekend, I assisted my dad in cleaning the gutters. I covered your airfare to visit Aunt Carolyn. You mentioned that money was tight in September. In order to give Leo and Tiffany more room, I also get the garage." Her expression tensed. That hard, resentful look I was all too familiar with replaced the fake excitement. "You ought to be thankful that we allowed you to stay at all." To be honest, her voice was sharp and low as she sneered. "Making things hard all the time. There's always something to gripe about. The garage is only used for one night. Quit being self-centered. Selfish is that word. For years, he has been the trustworthy person who fixes things, makes schedule adjustments, and lends money. While the golden cousin gets the actual bedroom, they sleep in a chilly garage. It makes me self-centered." Silently, like flipping a switch, something inside of me clicked. There was the usual churn of anger and hurt. Beneath it, however, was a sudden calm certainty. It was this: no more disputes. Stop attempting to get them to see. They viewed me exactly as they desired, a nuisance, a resource to be utilized and stored wherever it was most convenient for them. "All right, Mom," I said quietly. Presumably anticipating more of a struggle, she blinked. I simply nodded. "I get it." I played nice and left the kitchen for the next several hours. Around 7 p.m., Leo and Tiffany showed up wearing pricey coats and beaming. They were led into the living room right away, given drinks, swooned over Leo, and hardly gave me more than a brief, "Hey man." Tiffany looked at me as if she was trying to figure out what kind of handyman I was. I was told to bring their bags up by Mom. The tiny guest room, not the garage, of course. Amy gave me a pitying look, but when Mom glared at her, she quickly averted her gaze. It was awkward at dinner. I kept quiet. The others talked loudly. I excused myself after supper and went to look at it in the garage. The cot was positioned between piles of old tires and Dad's workbench, with a single exposed light bulb above it. Sitting there, the antiquated space heater appeared to be a potential fire hazard. The air was cold and wet. My breath was visible. I returned inside and assisted with clearing the table. Another hour of forced holiday cheer was endured by SAT. I watched Leo display photos from his phone from his ski trip. People began going to bed at about 11 o'clock. "Good night, Michael. Keep yourself warm." As she made her way upstairs, Mom called out with a false sense of brightness. I listened and waited until there was only the sound of my father's snoring coming through the floorboards. I then made my way to my car, picked up my duffel bag, went back inside to the bathroom, gathered my toiletries downstairs, put on my coat, and quietly locked the back door behind me before leaving. Didn't turn around. I got into my car and left. Nothing. No text, no. Nothing but quiet. It was a relief for the first hour. There was some melancholy in the second hour. My phone, which was dark on the passenger seat, came to life on the third hour. Then again and again. It is now Christmas morning at 9 o'clock. I slept for a few hours after checking into this motel room at around 6 in the morning. The phone on the bedside table is practically buzzing itself away. Mom has 7 missed calls and 15 texts according to a quick glance. Where are you? Michael, presents are being opened. Really? Are you pouting in the garage? Come on in. Answer your phone. Michael, this isn't amusing. Did you say nothing before you left? Young man, respond to me now. Leo brought a soundbar, but he needs assistance setting it up. It's not easy. You're where your actions have greatly disappointed your father. Is the garage at issue here? You're acting very immature. Christmas has been ruined by you. Where were you? Tiffany asked. It's embarrassing. Michael? I promise you that if you don't return my call within 5 minutes, there will be 3 missed calls, 5 texts, and several more demands in all caps. Mike, is everything all right? Mom is going crazy. Did you really go? Really? What took place? Mom wants you to come back here. Says you should give Leo an apology. For what do you apologize? Please, just give them a call. It's making things very uncomfortable. 2 missed calls, Dad. Son, give your mom a call. Let's resolve this. And Carol, Mom, sister, Leo's mother. When Miss Cox, your mom is furious. Michael, I heard you went. I hope everything is going well. You seemed unhappy last night, Leo said. Call your mother. They fail to understand. They really have no idea why. The last straw could be sleeping in a chilly garage, while the favorite cousin takes a warm bed. They view my departure as my failure, my selfishness, and my issue ruining their Christmas, not as a result of their disrespect. My well-being is not the source of the panic in those messages. It has to do with the interference with their plans. The inconvenience is the issue. Who will fix the next thing that breaks is the question. Or assist your father. Or simply be the family's handyman and shock absorber. Or listen to Mom whine. I feel calm-free and perhaps a little depressed. I placed a breakfast order for room service. I'm going to look for a TV movie marathon. My phone remains in silent mode. Their priorities were unambiguous. They now have to deal with the fallout. All right. The 28th is the date of the update. I haven't replied to anyone yet. After Christmas Day, the deluge of messages decreased, but it continued. The tone changed slightly, becoming more confused and guilty-tripping rather than pure panic. Mom expressed how hurt she is in a lengthy, meandering text. How could I harm her like this? How a family is meant to remain united. She always did everything for me. Didn't she? Tiffany found the garage situation amusing, which was news to me. Like going camping, she probably did. From her room in the dorm. It was also mentioned that Dad needed assistance moving the old freezer out of the basement because his back hurt, a task I was expected to complete during the break. I suppose that isn't taking place. When Amy texted me to check on me, she quickly changed the subject to how much stress this was causing Mom and Dad, and how I should just be the mature one and call their behavior normal by asking me to put up with it. Aunt Carol gave another call. Did not respond. Left a message on the voicemail. Sweet, syrupy voice. I just wanted to check in, Michael. Your mom is inconsolable. We're all concerned. Yesterday, Leo and Tiffany departed. They were uncomfortable. You may have overreacted. Only a little. The holidays can be a stressful time. Call your mother. Make everything go smoothly. Overreacted. Correct. Dad's voicemail was left. Sounded worn out. Look, Michael. Something wasn't right with the garage. Your mom. She does, after all, have ideas. However, leaving in that manner created a commotion. Give us a call. We must speak. It was still presented as me causing the scene, but it was probably the closest thing to an apology I will ever receive. Not what they did. The most telling factor. Not a single message. Asked why I left, because I felt disrespected. The use of being taken for granted was not acknowledged by any of them. It all comes down to their sentiments, their annoyance, and my overreaction. I've been relaxing for the past few days. Speak with Dave, my best friend. It did not surprise him. They've been doing this kind of thing for years, dude. Sleeping in the garage. It's on a whole new level. Well done for bouncing at last. It was helpful to hear that affirmation. Although I technically still co-signed on a shared utility account for the family home years ago to help them qualify. I received an email alert yesterday about a charged attempt on that account. It is typically paid automatically from Dad's account, even though he is supposed to pay it. However, the payment was unsuccessful. Not enough money, perhaps. Mom probably tried to pay it by hand using the backup link to my bank account that was stored. My utility company promptly clarified that I was no longer connected to that property's billing after my bank flagged it because it wasn't the main source of payment, deleted my bank account information, and numped Dendom as a co-signer. The phone backup took roughly half an hour. Informed them that the father, the primary account holder, bears full responsibility. He is responsible if he is unable to pay. However, I felt strangely. Like the man in that story I read, cutting off the automatic financial connections that allow them to be careless. No plans to get in touch with them yet. It felt good to block at Carol's number. If Amy continues to act like the bigger person, I might block her next. The silence has an addictive quality. It is now late February, 2 months later. I have been silent for 2 months. Life has been a scam. Work is hectic. Dave and I took a weekend trip. I finally fixed my own apartment's leaky faucet, which I had been putting off. After the initial weeks following the utility payment disaster, there were fewer and fewer attempts to get in touch with me. My cousin, who is more sensible, told me that the power went out for a little while before Dad rushed to make the payment. They appear to understand that I wasn't merely pouting. I had left. About a month ago, Amy sent one final text. Mom weeps a lot. Dad is anxious about his finances. I hope you're content. I didn't respond and deleted it. The manipulation is so obvious. Right now. Mom and Dad are telling the rest of the family that I had some sort of breakdown, that I'm unstable, and that they're worried to no end, according to my cousin's dad's side. But allowing me some room. The garage incident is either entirely left out or presented as my misinterpretation of a fun, rustic sleeping arrangement. The victim narrative is compelling. Carol reportedly heard that from Leo and Tiffany. The way I simply disappeared was really strange. None of them have self-awareness, the finest aspect. The liberty. I didn't have to prepare myself for the next snide remark, the next ridiculous request that was passed off as a family emergency. The next time I'll have to swallow my pride in order to maintain harmony and avoid having to budget for their next financial crisis or schedule my vacations around their whims. Just a quiet click, a locked door, and a silent drive away. Like the man whose wife texted him for a divorce. No big confrontation, no screaming match. The conditions were set by her. Only attorneys. He took it and did as he was told. With that garage cut, my family established the conditions. Here you are not appreciated, only helpful. They took me for granted, so I removed myself in accordance with my acceptance of it. I was not the reason for their panic. It was about losing their backup plan and their handyman, their emotional punching bag. They thought I should be grateful for the scraps they offered, even a freezing garage. They never imagined I'd just leave. I don't know if I'll ever have a real relationship with them again. Maybe years down the line if they ever genuinely understand and apologize. But I'm not holding my breath for now. The silence is peaceful. Building my own life on my own terms feels right. They got the Christmas. They created one without me. And I got my peace back. That's more than enough. Story 3. I was threatened with 50 by my daughter, or I would accuse you of abuse. I entered the police department. Evidence of extortion. Then I interrupted her, filed a defamation lawsuit, and engaged a forensic psychologist. Lawyers removed her courageous post at dawn. I'm a 52-year-old man. I've devoted the last 24 years of my life to just one person. Rachel, my daughter. When Rachel was only a toddler, her mother died of an unexpected illness, leaving me to negotiate the challenges of being a single parent. And I did my best. Science fair projects, ballet recitals, knee scrapes, and heartbreak. I witnessed everything. We worked as a group. I believed that we couldn't be broken. I have a reliable, if unimpressive, job in logistics. I saved hard to give her a good start in life, not to have a fancy retirement. Even though she graduated 2 years ago, I still sent her a few $100s a month to help with her bills, paid for her college education, and co-signed her first car. She asked to come over to discuss something important over the phone last Tuesday. I assumed she would finally tell me that she and Tyler, her boyfriend, were becoming serious. I don't like him. He claims to be an entrepreneur, but it seems like he keeps coming up with new and exciting ideas that will make him a millionaire, while using Rachel's car and residing in her apartment. She showed up sitting at the label of a water bottle, looking anxious. We performed the customary dance of small talk. How is work going? How is the vehicle operating? Then she let it fall. I need your assistance, Dad. Her voice was strangely formal as she began. I have this amazing opportunity with Tyler. It's revolutionary. To get in on the ground floor however we need money. I maintained a neutral expression. All right. What sort of chance? Complicated, she said. It's an import business with a tech focus, quick turnaround, and high yield. The buy-in, however, is $50,000. My coffee nearly choked me. $50,000. That's a huge sum of money, Rachel. I understand, but the returns are almost assured. In 6 months, it could double. I bent over. Please show me the company registration, the prospectus, and the business plan. I will discuss it with you. If it's sound, we might be able to find a more conventional method of obtaining a business loan. Her expression tensed. Dad, you don't have time for that. The window is going to close. By the end of the month, we must have the funds. I won't give Tyler or you $50,000 without any paperwork, Rachel. That isn't beneficial. That's just careless. I cherish you. However, the response is no. The daughter I knew disappeared here. An expression of sweetness and mild anxiety gave way to a hard, cold mask. Her eyes resembled glass chips. She lowered her voice to a low, poisonous tone and said, I knew you'd say that. Everything must always be under your control. You cannot simply be pleased for me. Rachel, that's unfair. I'm attempting to keep you safe. And my personal savings, to be honest. With her hands on her hips, she rose to her feet. She exuded a sense of entitlement in waves. It was amazing. All of it is due to me. For Mom's absence. Do you believe that paying for college compensated for that? For having a father who was constantly worn out and anxious? This is your opportunity to truly help me. Its sheer audacity left me stunned. The brutality. No, is the response, Rachel. We're done talking. A chilling smirk twisted her face as she stepped closer. No, it isn't. This is what will take place. Are you going to send the $50,000 to me? I will go to the police if you don't. I'll let them know that you harmed me as a child, that I was locked in my room by you. You struck me. I'll post something online. Behind closed doors, I'll tell everyone what a monster you are. Your friends, your job. Our remaining family is so small. Everyone will be aware. It will be the end of your life." Time paused. The room's air became heavy and thick. My daughter wasn't in my line of sight. I was staring at an unknown person. Her face was a hostile entity. My initial reaction was one of blazing anger. However, a wave of nausea followed immediately. The shakedown was this: a danger so deep it was like a punch to the body. The room spun around me as I fell into a chair as she slammed the door and stormed out. I had trouble breathing for a while. Then I felt the chilling, icy silence. Later, the grief would arrive. It was a matter of survival at the moment. I grabbed my phone. Despite my trembling hands, my mind was intensely focused. I had to write it down. I was betting on her conceit, but it was a risk. Her anger. Angry people are careless. To be absolutely clear, if I don't give you $50, are you going to falsely accuse me of abusing children? It seemed to go on forever. However, my phone buzzed a minute later. "Don't try to be smart, Rachel. I heard you. The deadline is the 30th. You're giving me no other option. I have a screenshot saved." I emailed it to myself after saving it once more to the cloud. I experienced a deep sense of loss, as if a piece of my life had been severed without the use of anesthesia. I had lost the daughter I had raised. This thing, which had just declared war, had taken her place. I am not a hero. I manage logistics and find solutions to issues, methodically, gradually. And this is my life's largest logistical challenge. One update. Hi everyone. It has been a waking nightmare for the past 2 weeks. I haven't slept much. I've shed some pounds. I couldn't let myself lose. The knot of acid in my stomach is constantly churning. I feel like I'm using duct tape to keep myself together on the outside while I go to work and operate on the inside. However, I wanted to express my gratitude for your support of my previous post. As I made the initial necessary steps, it made me feel less alone. Overcome outbursts with strategy. I now live by it. First, the attorney. I spent the morning researching the lawyers and called in sick the day after the threat. I discovered Miss Janet, a highly regarded attorney with a focus on defamation and family law. In court, she is known to be a shark, but in her office, she is a cool, strategic advisor. Excellent. Feeling like a fraud. I sat in her luxurious office and told her everything, including the text messages. Her face was serious. The only way to deal with poison, she said, is to contain it and then neutralize it. This is poison. You made a great first move. Now, before she even considers firing her first arrow, we construct a fortress. The police station is the second step. I have never done anything as difficult as this. I entered the central police station the morning after hiring this Janet. My entire body cried out for me to flee. I had a criminal's feeling. I calmly explained that I was there to report extortion when I sat down with the detective. I outlined the discussion, the request, and the particular danger. I then showed him the text exchange's printout. After reading it, he turned to face me. There was a glimmer of understanding in his tired eyes. So he said, "You're ahead of it." There was no question. My statement was taken by him. There is now an official file. It is timed, logged, and dated. For the time being, it's my word against hers, as the detective stated. However, the written proof and my initiative give my story a lot of credibility. The goal is not to have her arrested. Making an official time-stamped shield is the goal. Cutting the cord is step 3. Under Miss Janet's guidance, I completed the financial imputation step by step. A fragment of my past vanished. I put enhanced security alerts on all of my accounts after calling my bank. I gave the phone company a call. My family plan included Rachel's line. I had disconnected it. I canceled the allowance I sent her each month. Lastly, Miss Janet wrote a formal, brutally brief email that was sent to Tyler's old email address, as well as Rachel. It said that because of her recent behavior, all financial support had been discontinued with immediate effect. The consequences start to occur. 3 days later, Rachel called in a rage. "I can't get my phone to work. I have to pay my rent." "What did you do?" I said again, what the attorney had instructed me to say. "You got the email, Rachel. All funding has been discontinued." A flurry of texts from Tyler followed her cry of, "You'll be sorry!" Accusations and insults. "You're a monster, old man. You're a true workaday." I didn't respond. I simply took a screenshot of everything and sent it to my attorney's office. A mixture of fear and vindication made my hands shake. The courageous post from the title then surfaced on her Instagram yesterday. An image of her looking depressed with a lengthy, ambiguous caption about emotional control prison and childhood trauma. My blood is simultaneously hot and cold. I wanted to post my own side and scream. Rather, I inhaled, deeply snapped multiple screenshots and forwarded them to my attorney. One step at a time. The arrows had begun to fly, but the fortress is still under construction. 2 months have passed since the last update. Living in a low-grade state of terror for 2 months. The internet campaign has gotten more intense. More specific poisonous breadcrumbs have been left in the comments section of Rachel's ambiguous posts. She implied that I used to lock her in a room when she was a child, turning a pointless 2-week punishment when she was 16 into a story about being imprisoned. We think your comments and likes poured in. Neighbors started staring at me. One of them, who used to be so amiable, simply nods pityingly and tightly. My sister Carolyn called me. It wasn't a conversation. It was an interrogation. "Dennis, what on earth did you do?" Rachel told me everything. How you controlled her. How you were always so angry. She's terrified of you. "Carolyn, what did she tell you specifically?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Well, that you were just awful. That you're punishing her for trying to be independent. And you believe that she's your daughter, Dennis. She wouldn't just make it all up." I ended the call. The feeling of betrayal was so absolute it left me numb. Then came Tyler. He left a voicemail. He sounded like a wannabe mob negotiator. "Listen, Dennis." His voice began a clumsy attempt at being reasonable. "I think this has all gone too far. Rachel, she's a wreck. We can make this all go away. The posts, the drama, everything. Just help her out. She needs that loan. Think of it as making things right. You do that, and this all disappears." He wasn't smart enough to realize he'd just handed me a recorded confession of their entire strategy. I saved it, and my lawyer was ecstatic. The constant pressure was wearing me down. I was living on coffee and antacids. But during one of my sleepless nights scrolling through legal websites, I realized defense wasn't enough. A fortress can still be starved out. I needed to go on the offensive. The next day, I was back in Miss Janet's office. "I want to end this." I told her, "What's the next move?" She leaned forward. "We sue them for defamation. But if we're going to do it, we make sure our case is ironclad. We don't just deny her claims. We bring in an expert to professionally dismantle them." That's when she told me about Dr. Jerry, a forensic psychologist, an expert witness whose entire job is to provide objective clinical evaluations in high-conflict family cases. "It's expensive," Miss Janet warned. "It will take time, but his report would be our sword." The cost was staggering enough to make me physically ill. It would chew up a huge chunk of my savings. But what was the alternative? Live the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, branded as an abuser by my own child. "Hire him," I said. Update 3. It's been a long, quiet, and agonizing 3 months since my last update. That's how long the next phase took. Meeting with Dr. Jerry was like a voluntary autopsy of my life. I went over everything in his sterile office for hours on end, for weeks. He asked me about my late wife, my parenting challenges, my accomplishments, and my shortcomings. I confessed to every error I could recall, even the door's fucking lock. He spoke to old family friends with my consent. Rachel's former pediatrician, as well as my brother, who fortunately has sound judgment. He went through 20 years' worth of medical and educational records. It was painstaking, draining, and emotionally cruel. 2 weeks ago, the report arrived. It was a 40-page document with single spacing that contained hard clinical facts. It came to the conclusion that patterns of behavior linked to physical or ongoing emotional abuse were significantly at odds with my psychological profile and recorded history. It depicted a grieving, devoted, and occasionally overworked single parent. The sword Miss Janet had promised was the report. It was time to put it to work. The lawsuit was filed last Wednesday. Extortion through civil conspiracy, deliberate infliction of emotional distress and defamation. Millions was not what we were requesting. All legal and expert witness fees were to be fully reimbursed. A permanent injunction was ordered by the court. We were tasked by a court to draft the public retractions wording. On Thursday afternoon, a process server brought the documents to Rachel's apartment. At 8 p.m., he served her first, followed by Tyler. That evening, Miss Janet carried out the last action. Through courier and email, a cease and desist letter was sent. It listed all of the defamatory posts and comments and cited the lawsuit. The hammer blow came in the last paragraph. By 6 a.m., you are required to remove all defamatory content permanently. Tomorrow morning, we will be requesting an emergency injunction and bringing a claim for further punitive damages if the content is not taken down. The content is active for each hour. I didn't get any sleep. Every 10 minutes I refreshed her Instagram page while sitting in my dark kitchen with my laptop open. The post was up since 5 in the morning. 5:30 a.m. My chest pounded with my heart. I once more refreshed at 5:45 a.m. She had lost her entire account. At 6:15 a.m., it was cleaned. A blocked number called my phone. Rachel was crying uncontrollably. "Are you suing me?" "Your own daughter is being sued. My life is being ruined by you." It was a sound of pure, pitiful incredulity mixed with anger and panic. For a moment, the entitled queen was unable to understand that she had been checkmated. I almost cried when I heard her sobbing, but then I recalled how icy her eyes had been when she threatened. "Rachel, though." My voice was dead and flat as I spoke. "You attempted to destroy my life. All I'm doing is defending it. Can you tell Miss Janet anything else you want to say? Don't get in touch with me again." The dam finally broke after I hung up. I sobbed until the sun rose while seated at my kitchen table. The last update. A year has passed. My life was completely upended a year ago. Despite its glacial pace, the legal system has finally come to a complete stop. To wrap up this chapter, I wanted to publish one last update. They were frightened by the lawsuit. They scrambled in a pitiful and awkward manner. Tyler was just a worried boyfriend, according to his attorney. The voicemail was returned by us. They gave up. The evidence was seen by Rachel's attorney. He knew he had an unwinnable case after reading the police report, the voicemail, the texts, and the 40-page sword from Dr. Jerry. He urged them to resolve the dispute, a thorough accounting. The repercussions weren't dramatic. They were life's silent, grating after effects. The agreement. The final deal was harsh. Tyler and Rachel were held equally responsible for paying all of my expert witness and legal fees. After a year of labor, the final bill totaled $42,000. They had to consent to a plan of wage garnishment. Tyler is currently employed at a grocery distribution center full-time as a stalker. Rachel is employed at a contact center. I will continue to receive this sizable portion of their income for years to come. The retraction had to be posted by her. For 90 days, Rachel's new empty Instagram profile featured Miss Janet's legal poetry. I, Rachel Larson, hereby take back and express my regret for any inaccurate and disparaging remarks I made about my father Dennis Larson on the internet. My allegations of psychological control, mistreatment of rent and abuse were false. The court issued the permanent injunction. They can't bring me up in public ever again. The effects on families and society. It was a nuclear bomb retraction. The I think you crowd disappeared. She had lost her courage as a survivor. She was a known extortionist and liar. She reportedly lost the majority of her friends. Carolyn. My sister texted me a pathetic apology. Without replying, I removed it. Not all betrayals are worthy of a response. About 4 months ago, Rachel and Tyler split up. Whatever they had seemed to be destroyed by the debt, the humiliation, and the sheer ugliness of what they did. Tyler has left, living with roommates and drowning in debt. Rachel is attempting to destroy me in my current situation. Even though I won, it doesn't feel like a win. You cut it out when you have cancer. To survive, you go through the chemotherapy and the surgery. Despite being scarred, you are still alive. The cancer was Rachel. I have a scar that will last for half of my life. She is not someone I despise. Now all I feel for her is a huge empty void where a daughter once was. I'm learning how to cope with the PTSD and grief from it all in therapy. It's a procedure. There are good days. On other occasions, I'll witness a father and daughter laughing, and I have to get out of the room to avoid losing my mind. The house was sold by me. There are too many ghosts. I now own a modest condo. I'm getting back in touch with the few family members and friends who supported me. I'm creating a new life, painfully and slowly. It's quieter, smaller, and completely mine. What I discovered in the fire is what I would advise anyone who is facing this. Keep a record of everything. Take action. Don't just respond. Keep your temper in check and adopt a tough, icy approach. And be aware that you might need to amputate a portion of it entirely in order to save your own life. It came at a terrible cost. However, I remain here and am free.